having our faces in front of the senators and the representatives saying, hey, this is important for us. You need to work for this. And so they know our faces. They know our names.
I'm Becky Kiser, Hays Post Eagle Radio News reporter, and I'm talking with Hays City Manager Toby Dougherty and City Commissioner Reese Barrick about the April 10th City Commission meeting. It's all on this episode of the Hays Post podcast.
We had a clean audit again this year, which is something we strive for every year, and we have good financial processes in place, so it doesn't surprise me that we get a clean audit every year. But it's nice to have that confirmed by the auditors. But yeah, a few years ago we switched from a GASB audit, which is a governmental accounting standards board process. We switched to KMAG, which is the state requirement for municipal audits. And it's just a lot simpler process. It takes less time for the auditors. It takes less time for our people to put together. And in the end, it still gives anybody who wants to know an insight into the relative health of our financials, as well as our internal records keeping when it comes to financials. So the outcome's still the same. It's just a lot easier process.
What is the purpose of the audit? Who's interested in that information?
From a transparency standpoint, you have to do it so the public knows you're spending the dollars in a way that's consistent with state laws and even your local ordinances. I guess when we go out for like bonds, revenue bonds, general obligation bonds, that's one of the things they do is they look at your audit when they do your bond rating. So they're gonna make sure that we have the internal controls in place and they're going to look at our past audits, just to be able to track. But it's a tool to make sure that you are handling the money well, but it's also a forensic tool for somebody that wants to come in and look and see how your finances have changed over the years. Budgets tell the public how you plan to spend your money, and in some regard how you spent it last year. But it doesn't give you the nuance that an audit does with cash balances and reserves and things like that. So it's a lot deeper dive into your finances.
And Reese, one of the things that's probably a little bit more fun, you had an opportunity to hear a report from the Youth Leadership Advisory Board. They're in their second year. This group ending his second year, and they reported on projects that they've done. And I think Elena Cunningham, City Commissioner, said it well, that these are important projects that allows the city and new members to the board to evolve and grow with them.
Well, that's exactly right. Is a project that Mason Reuter really had come up with and started and got some really great young people from the community, from Hays High and from TMP to join this board. And we didn't really know exactly what to expect. We gave them some parameters and they came up with really amazing ideas and really dove into creating these projects and following through with them. And it's really amazing to see how sort of ingenious these kids are, and also sort of their tenacity to follow through with projects. And so a lot of growth for them and great results for the community.
They reported on 3 major projects that they worked on over this past 9 months, past school year, academic year. Erin Reuter talked about her mental health initiative and anti-bullying awareness campaign. The second mock election that was held at Hays Middle School with the 8th graders there, and they had done it previously at TMP. And then Preston Murmas, who probably had to go through the most red tape of what his project was involved, was able to establish a new fire department explorer group and has some new members, and they're looking at expanding that into EMS and the Kansas Fire Service. Those are some great projects.
They're great projects. And yeah, Preston had to do a lot more work to get his going, but it's going really well. And we always know that mental health is a major concern, not just among the youth, but the whole community. So there's some great work there. And yeah, Isabel Jones working with the mock elections, and they did a great job. They actually set up and had some little debates and divided things up so that the middle schoolers this year had a chance to sort of listen and realize that things aren't always just black or white. There's all sorts of mixtures, and how do I vote if I like some things but not everything that some candidate is putting out there. So they got a really good chance to sort of see how elections work and participate. So that was a lot of fun.
And I was there. It was great to see a great contingent of local, county, state, and representatives of the government entities who were there to kind of introduce themselves and answer questions. And they really talked about what it means to vote or not to vote.
That's right. And the whole point that that the youth leadership came up with was we need to get started early so that we don't get 30%, 40%, 60% participation in elections. So when these middle schoolers become 18 and they get to vote, that they actually do. And so it's a great way of sort of building towards that process.
And Toby, how are these members of the leadership committee or at board, how are they elected, presented?
They're kind of self-appointed. So the board itself solicits applications and then vets the applications and makes recommendation to the governing body, and then the governing body ultimately appoints them. And there was some appointments last night as part of that.
And these are all students from our 2 local high schools.
Yes.
And I noticed Mayor Sandy Jacobs also pointing out last night that there is some retention of, I think she said 3 members, which is good for these projects and kind of that institutional knowledge, if you will, they'll be able to continue with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to keep a few on just because they know kind of how the system works, but then you get the fresh input and the fresh ideas with the new kids coming on.
And Reese, you said something about some of the students are seniors and maybe leaving town or at least going to Fort Hays State University, and you made sure to invite them back to the community and put that great knowledge to use.
Absolutely. These kids grow and mature, and they are full of these great ideas, and they're active and they're participating in everything. So these are the kids, go out and see the world, get an education, but come back to Hays, and that's what will keep continuing to make our community better and better.
Very impressive group. The most members of the commission and also some staff members had the opportunity to be in Washington, D.C. recently, along with the Western Kansas congressional delegation. Toby, you were there to talk to representatives of our local representatives at the national level and talk about issues that are important to Western Kansas. And so many of them are common, whether you're maybe one of the bigger communities like Hays or some of the smaller communities. And we're in this together, and it's a little bit different than the eastern side of the state.
Yeah, this is an event that's been going on since sometime in the 90s. I'm not sure exactly when it started, but quite a while. It used to be that the 5 Western Kansas communities, Great Bend, Garden City, Dodge City, Liberal, and Hays, were all part of the Essential Air Service program, and the Department of Transportation bid that out as a package. And so there was a group that would go out and meet with DOT every other year and talk about the package before it got bid. That then morphed into, hey, if we're going to be in town, what else can we do that shows the presence of these Western Kansas communities but benefits us? And so what it quickly morphed into that some of the commissioners were at this past week is that there is a staffer briefing on Monday morning, and that's a all-morning event where the staffers for Senator Marshall, Senator Roberts, and Representative Mann, they all come in and they convene on various topics, and those are topics of the community's suggestion. So immigration, farm bill, inflation, energy policy, things like that. And so there's presentations on what's going on legislatively regarding those topics. There's questions and answers, from the audience. There's time at the end for question and answers at the audience. And then in the afternoon, there's a small contingent that goes to DOT to talk about the Essential Air Service program. Monday evening, there's a reception that everybody goes to, and that was originally put in place to show appreciation for the staffers for all the hard work they do. And then Tuesday was the actual legislative meetings where delegations from each community went around and met individually with Senator Marshall, Senator Moran, and Representative Mann. I've used the word staffers a lot because while we always like visiting with our elected officials out there, it's the staffers that do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Sure.
And so, I mean, you'd be surprised how many staffers these people have out there. And so being able to interact one-on-one with those staffers to get to know them, to learn what their specialties are, to develop that relationship makes it easier than to send an email to a specific staffer saying, I have a question about that. Or it results in a staffer saying, well, I know Hayes is interested in this. And so if they see something coming down the policy pipeline, they may send you a preemptive email. So it helps develop those relationships. And what those staffers do change sometimes. So that's why it's kind of important to do that.
Well, Reese, this particularly is a local issue, but are the staffers and their people aware of the R9 Ranch? Did you get to talk about the progress there?
Yes, we had some good discussions with the staff and with the senators because this is a big question for us, and we've had some of the funding that we were potentially going to get was sort of taken away. And so,
was it?
So they're now working on different avenues. They're actually on it that next day where some other funds that could be drawn in to help out with the R9 project. So it was good to be there, getting them working on it early and having our faces in front of the senators and the representatives saying, hey, this is important for us. You need to work for this. And so they know our faces, they know our names. And so, if I say, hey, Senator Moran, Reese from Hayes said that we need to work on this, he remembers that. So for everybody that went from the county and the city, it's a very important process to keep front of mind for them, the things that are important to us.